Hello everyone and welcome back. So as you can see, I've made quite a lot of progress on my little cardigan that I'm making for this hexagon cardigan. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to make a hood, just in case you want to add one. The hood is actually an optional part of this design, but should you want a hood, this is how you're going to be doing it. So to make a hood, you're going to need a further 2 measurements. You're going to need the measurement that I call the hood length, which takes you from one collarbone up past your ear to the top of your head and back over the side to the other collarbone, and that is the whole distance of that is your hood length. And you're also going to need to measure from the back centre of your head round to one of your temples, and that we call the hood depth measurement. So you're going to start by taking those measurements and jotting them down. And then what we need to start with is your hood length measurement. So I'm actually going to make a bit of a miniature version for this demonstration video, but the technique is completely the same. What you're going to do is you're going to take your hook and your yarn. This brown number over here is actually my version of this cardigan. So the little red one is obviously for my daughter. The brown one is for me. So I'm going to make myself a hood here. So you're going to start by tying your slip knot as before, popping that on your hook, and you're going to chain a number of chains, and this number varies. So basically you need this string of chains to be the same length as your hood length number. So say you've measured, I think I measured for Cora's jumper, my little person's jumper, 68 centimetres. You just keep going, doing your chain stitch. Keep repeating that, and every once in a while just measure it with your tape measure. As you can see here, I've got my builder's tape measure because I can never find my soft tape measure. You keep going until you have reached that length. So yeah, so I remember her one was 68 centimetres. I'm just going to do sort of 30 centimetres or so just to show you the technique for this. Okay, so you're going to keep chaining until you are at the length that you need. And then when you've measured it to be your hood length, this is 23 centimetres for example, or 9 inches. When you've got it to that length, you're going to add on 2 further chains, an additional 2 chains. So that is your hood length equal number of chains plus 2 chains. And those 2 chains are actually going to be the first stitch in your next row. So what you're going to do now is you are going to do some double crochets all the way along this chain, starting with the 4th chain, because these 2 are officially your first stitch coming out of that 3rd chain. So you're going to yarn over and put your hook into your 4th chain from your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And then repeat those doubles, you're working all the way along your chain. Like so. So you should be fairly confident with the double crochet technique now, because that's what we've been using for the whole cardigan. But if not, go back and re-watch the video. Okay, so I'm going to carry on. I'm going to meet you back when we get to the end. Okay, so here I am. I'm almost at the end. I've got 2 stitches left because I've got 2 chains left to do. So there's number 1. And there's number 2. So once you've completed one row, you are going to chain 2. And this chain 2 counts as your first stitch. So ignore this first chain that it's coming out of. Turn your work, and you're simply going to work right back across that row to the other side. So like I say, ignoring this first chain because this stitch counts as your first post, and straight into the second one along. You're going to work back along. all double crochets, one in each chain. And when you get to the end, you're simply going to chain 2, turn your work and start all over again. And you're going to repeat this row until your hood measures the width, the hood depth, should I say, the hood depth measurement that you took at the beginning. So I'm going to carry on now. I'm going to do a few more rows and meet you back when that is done for me, okay? So here we are at the moment. Okay, so here I am back. Obviously this is not true to life size. I'm making a little miniature hood here just to show you the technique. But what I've got is my initial chain, which runs along this side, and then multiple rows of double crochet until this piece measures the depth of my hood depth measurement, and this piece measures the length of my hood length measurement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to turn this rectangle of crochet fabric into a hood. If you're planning on seaming in the same colour, you would keep this working loop. However, I am going to seam in a contrasting colour so you can see, so I'm going to tie this off. Just tighten that off. Snip that free from the ball. So, here I have my rectangle. All you do for a hood is fold that rectangle down the long edge, fold it in half on the long edge so you've got a little square. And you might notice my rectangle is slightly shorter on this side than this side, and that is simply because my chains are tighter than my double crochets, so I find it always flares out just a little bit. So what I tend to do is say that the shorter side is my front, is the front of my hood, and this back piece is where I'm going to join the seams so that we have a hood, basically, so we have a hood shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my contrasting yarn, and you're going to use the slip stitch join method that we used previously on this cardigan to do this. So I'm going to take the inside loop of my bottom piece and just pull up a working loop. I'm going to tie that on, get nice and secure, and again, same way from top down, bring up a working loop. So now that I've got that, I'm going to align my 2 layers of chains. Can you see that? And we're going to work along. It can be a little bit fiddly because obviously this is a 3D piece and we are seaming it up into this piece, but bear with it. You're going to take your hook and you're going to put that in the inside piece. As before, you want to make sure that your working yarn is coming underneath you. So you're going to pull that through and take it under working loop. So again, we're going to move that piece out of the way so you can actually see. We're going to take the bottom loop of the top chain, the top loop of the bottom chain, grab our yarn, take it under both, and then under our working loop. Bottom loop of the top loop of the bottom, grab our working yarn, take it under those, and under our last chain. You want to keep this fairly loose, because if you do it too tight, you'll end up with like a gathered seam, which, actually might look fairly cool, but that's not the look we're going for. You're going to seam this all the way up your hood, right into the centre of the top. It can get a little bit fiddlier the closer you get to this point, because obviously you've not got much space to work with, so do your best, don't rush it. I'm actually going to snip my yarn free so that I don't end up with the ball getting stuck. Oh. So I'm getting close to the end now. I've actually got 3 stitches left on mine. So I'm going to do these 2 together, as per usual. There we go. And there's one further loop. I'm just going to grab it with my hook, pull it through, chain 1 and pull that up to secure. So there you have your back seam of your hood. So what that should look like is basically a little square off rectangle. And how that sits is that actually you flatten it out like this from the front and you end up with a little triangular hood. And this is the piece that joins around the neckline of your cardigan. And you have a hood like this. It's a great little method for making easy baby bonnets too. So here it is in real size. This is for my 4-year-old. And obviously I've added the rib stitch to that, and then that's going to be in the next video. But yeah, it sits on the hood as so. So full instructions are in the pattern on how you join that. It's fairly simple because we just whip stitch that in. But what you want to make sure is that when you're aligning your hood, you line up the middle seam of your cardigan with the middle seam of your hood. So that seam that you've just created, you just need to make sure is in alignment with this one so that it's not off-centered when you are making it and you're putting that together. So yeah, like I say, full instructions on how to join that on are in the pattern. And that's how you make a hood.